All right, here we are. We're back with another first two baits, and this one is for pre-spawn lakes. Now that is after the winter time has kind of bottomed out the water temperature, and the water temperature is starting to climb back. And now we're talking lakes anywhere from Georgia to Pennsylvania, all the way across the U.S. Middle part of the this is man-made impoundments lakes. First two baits for me is going to be, I'm thinking reaction, I'm thinking cover water, and I'm thinking I want to put together a pattern of where these fish are going to be. These bass are going to be set up. So first and foremost, it's probably my first love, to be honest with you, shallow crankbaits. That's right, we have got the Little John box. I'm going to open this bad boy up. It's loaded. Oh yeah, it's loaded. Now I've got a number of different favorite color options. This is definitely Western Crawl, one of my absolute favorites for that pre-spawn period. I love it. I've taken a marker and put a little extra red on there and then a little black around the, just to try to really match it up. Now you can see that one's game ready. It's been out there before. That Little John in Western Crawl might be my #1 choice for those lakes that have a little stain to it, where I'm going to be going out and trying to find those patterns like I talked about. We're going to go towards the backs of the creeks, towards the backs of the pockets, and kind of work our way out. And it seems almost like, man, this is early pre-spawn. What's going on? The water temperatures are starting to come back up now, and you're going to be looking for those areas where they're going to spawn, but come on out from those. So that's probably my #1. If you've got a lot of bait fish in the area for whatever reason, you can switch to a shad color like the new pearl shad. You can switch to that. No doubt, if there's a little more stain. But man, it's hard. For some reason, red, that early spring time is hard to beat. And this is one of my buddies as well right here, Mr. Springcroft. Probably cut more off of this than anything else. And this is the Type R, the rattling. Pre-spawn is one of those times I may want to go to a rattling bait. Now, with the Little John series, it's cool because there's a rattling and a non-rattling, and I can go, first couple days, or if I get, windy conditions, something like that, I can go to the rattling version. Then I can switch it up if winds calm down a little bit, or if there's, a bunch of boats in the area that I'm trying to fish. Change gears, drop back to that silent version without the rattle in it, and probably catch a few more fish. So that's kind of how I like to do it. If you're around grass, the rattle, you want that rattle in the grass. I don't know why, but they like it in the grass if you're fishing around grass. All right, so that's bait #1. Shallow running crankbait. Spur Little John's my choice. Flat side, for some reason, they just love it. And that's going to be my #1 choice. Number two choice is a jerkbait. Now, I've said jerkbait in the wintertime, yes. But the 2 times of the year that you absolutely have to have that jerkbait in your hand, wintertime and the pre-spawn. Now, if the water starts to get a little clearer, you may want to go more towards the jerkbaits. But don't be afraid. Listen to me right now. Don't be afraid to throw that jerkbait in a little bit of stained water. They will eat it. I've been guilty of this myself. I've been totally guilty of not throwing the jerkbait in that stained water. So let's get a couple options. Natural herring in the Spro mixed stick is a really, really good one. I really like that one because it reminds me of a bleached out shad, and that's really what a lot of bass are feeding on in the wintertime. So early pre-spawn, those fish are still a little programmed to looking for those shad that are just kind of struggling. They're just kind of struggling around. Looks like an easy meal. Come up, num. If the water temperature's still into the mid 40s, then I'm probably gonna go more jerkbait. When that water temperature gets up into like the, I'd say upper 40s, around 50 mark and above, man, the crankbait really gets hot. But they can both work, you know, throughout that pre-spawn period. And I'm gonna be also, I don't wanna not mention it, is the McIU. It's become one of my favorites. I absolutely love this color. It's got a little more flash, it's got some translucence to it, and got a little chartreuse on it. I feel like sometimes that, I mean, I've caught them all year on that McIU color. Really like that. I'm gonna be jerking that on 12-pound Sunline Sniper, and I'm gonna put that on a John Cruz square bill rod. Actually, I'm fishing the same baits, fishing those baits basically on the same setup. 12-pound Sunline Sniper, Cashin rods, John Cruz square bill rod. Works great for jerk baits. I do use, sometimes I use some other rods for jerk baits that Cashin makes. The 7-foot topwater jerkbait rod, the medium heavy one. I like something with a little more backbone to it when I'm jerkbait fishing. And then, you know, just I really like a Daiwa Tatula 7-to-1 reel. That's kind of the reel I would use for both. You can use a 6.3, that's fine. No problems there. But those are the first two baits that I would fish with in the early springtime. And then I mentioned patterns earlier. I want to go back on that for a second. So you've got these first two baits, put them in your hand. You're going to be able to cover a lot of water. Jerkbait, crankbait. You know, you're going to be able to cover a lot of water. The places that I would start, as I mentioned with the crankbait, we get that water temperature up in the upper 40s, 50s especially. You want to go towards the backs of the creeks and look for the little points or the little rocky stretches of bank or the channel swing banks. See what you can drum up with the old crankbait. You know, you're going to be making long casts, getting closer to the bank, paralleling. You're going to be paralleling those banks, moving around, trying to just get some bites. Now, if you go out there and you catch a 12 or 13 incher, just disregard that as far as patterns go. You catch something above 2 pounds, 2 1/4, 2 3/4, 3-pounder, 4 or 5-pounder, hopefully. That fish was there for a reason. That fish was there for a reason. It was no accident, no joke. Make a mental note, where was that fish? He was in the middle of the back of this pocket. Maybe he was on a piece of brush or a stump, okay? Make a note of that and keep going. If you can get 2 or 3 bites on the same type of cover, that's a pattern, and you want to run around and do that. So if on all of the secondary points leading into the pockets, all those little secondary points is where you've caught, let's say you get 2 or 3 bites on those little secondary points, I'm not messing with the rest of it. I'm going to just run, no matter how good it looks, I'm going to go to the next area and look for that same secondary type point. Does that make sense? I hope it does for you at home. I'm going to look for that with that crankbait. Okay, jerkbait. Crankbait's not happening. Can't get bit on a crankbait. A couple hours, no bites. I'm going to move out. I'm going to back out a little bit more. So instead of those little secondary points, I'm going to look for the primary points leading into those pockets. Primary points leading into those pockets. I'm going to throw ye old jerks baits all the way around that point. Sometimes they'll be on the tip. Sometimes they're on the inside, especially if there's like a little inside channel on the inside of that point. If you might have a point like this, and on one side of it, maybe leading into the pocket, there's a little channel swing. Sometimes those fish are not out on the end. They're up in that channel swing further up. So put that jerkbait in your hand, go all the way around the point, see what happens. Nothing's going on there. Look for the next point or the next stopping area for those fish on the way back out towards the main channel. And if all else fails, put the jerkbait in your hand over top of those main lake points, main lake docks, or docks. Sometimes those fish will stage on the docks, and you could throw that jerkbait around, kind of parallel the ends of them. That could be a really, really good deal for catching those pre-spawners. They will get around docks as well, but really, to me, they seem to be more related to the points and the channel swings Just put that jerkbait in your hand if you're not getting bit on the crankbait, and usually one of those two is going on in the first part of the year in those man-made lakes. So put those two in your hands. You will catch more fish and you'll have fun, and that's what it's all about. So if you have any experience or you have a different bait, you know, now we're not talking about Florida lakes, we're not talking about way up north, we're not talking about anything too radical. We're talking about regular, normal, natural man-made lakes. If you've got anything, I want to hear about it. Put it down there. Put it down there in the comments. I want to hear what you got, and I appreciate you watching.